Did ActRaiser have too much action for your taste? Do you like playing video games that play themselves? Are you ready to take your first step towards political global domination? Then come and let's play SimCity for the Super Nintendo. This is one of the very few games from my childhood that I have yet to LP because I didn't think it would be that interesting, but I've learned a lot since then, especially thanks to one of my viewers that I'll credit in the video description. SimCity is a strategy game where you're the mayor and in charge of building a city from scratch. So let's check it out. There's 3 modes of play available. Practice is just a small island where you're very limited as to how much you can build, but it's enough to experience most of the gameplay mechanics. I have a few city builds that I'd like to show you in practice since they're relatively quick and easy to demonstrate in such a small space. When you're ready to try building a full city, you can start a new city to pick from a supply of 2,000 maps. And finally, we have scenarios, which contain pre-built cities where you try to deal with various problems or disasters and unlock other content for completing them all as well. So we're going to start in practice just to get the basics here. Our first goal is to build a city of 30,000 people within... Oh, okay, I guess they don't say, but it's 5 years. You've got 5 years to do that. Although it's not game over. If you fail, you could just, keep building. But that's like a milestone there. That's the objective. If you can do that, you probably know the basics. Hey, how's it going? You expecting a letter from your girlfriend? No, that's another game on an island, viewers. But yeah, he gives advice throughout the game, and so he's telling us about how to start building our city with a power plant. Before we do that, though, let's go up to the bar menu here and set the game speed to the bed. It stops time, so we have as much time to build whatever we want. So let's see, I'm going to start up here to build a power plant. We have 2 options here. The coal power plant has a lower starting cost, but it's much less cost efficient than the other option. Coal power plants also produce a lot of pollution as well. But nuclear power plants do not produce pollution. Well, usually they don't. But yeah, they have a much greater starting cost, they don't regularly produce pollution, and they're much more cost efficient. Like, I think coal power plants are supposed to supply power to 700 tiles. So like, this is 1 tile there with the cursor. The whole map, by the way, is 120 tiles by 100 tiles. So yeah, you get 700 from the coal power plant or 2,000 from the nuclear power plant. That may seem like a lot, but due to the rather bizarre way power distribution actually happens, it's not going to reach that many tiles. So you're going to need to build quite a few power plants. So I'm going to start with the nuclear power plant over here because no one wants to live next to one, and it's out of the way of the main island where I'm going to be putting my zones for people to do stuff. We also got another little island here for me to put something else out of the way from everyone. Okay, so we got the power plant to provide electricity. Let's start building some residential zones, which is where your residents are going to live. So let's see, let's start about the middle of the island here. And I've already prepared the layout for the entire city well in advance, very precisely planned. The way I did it was I took a spreadsheet and then just changed the background color of the tiles to represent the zones. Like red would be residential zones, and so on. I'll put a link to the spreadsheet in the video description so you can see my overall city plan. But yeah, this is where I'm going to start with that. Okay, now we need to build commercial zones which provide employment for your citizens, and, well, they provide a place for them to spend money as a destination from when they're traveling from residential zones. So let's see, I'm going to put a few over here, but I want to spread them out quite a bit. And finally, we have industrial zones, which their only purpose is to provide employment to your citizens, but they produce quite a bit of pollution, so I want to put them far away from the residential zones, since pollution reduces residential growth. So we'll put a whole bunch over here like that. And then let's put some police departments to help reduce crime. So I want one for the commercial zones and the residential zones. So we'll start with that. But yeah, the way all of this kind of works together, the central mechanic is on the map here, land value, which we have nothing to start. But like, say, with industrial zones, they produce pollution, which reduces land value, which then increases crime. And we'll see a whole bunch of that as we start developing our city there. But yeah, industrial zones develop independent of land value. Commercial zones are entirely dependent on land value. And residential zones are dependent on land value, but that can be reduced by pollution. Commercial zones do not suffer due to pollution, so that's why I've got them here as kind of a barrier between the residential and industrial zones. So now we need to connect everything together here. Oh, and by the way, as far as money goes, we started with 20 grand there. And if you want to have a lot more money, you could use the money cheat or the debug menu that I showed in the preview episode there. But I'm not going to be using any of those. Okay, so yeah, let's connect our zones together. We have two options for that. Roads, which are the cheaper option, but you'll have traffic and produce pollution. So I don't want to use those. I would rather use the more expensive mass transit or rails, railroad, whatever you want to call it. They have no traffic at all or pollution, unlike, well, I'd imagine trains back in 1900 would have produced a lot of pollution. But in this game, they don't. So they are the go-to choice for your means of transit there. So basically, what I want to do is have every zone touching a piece of transit there. And I want every tile of transit to be connected to every other tile of transit, which is, I guess, somewhat more realistic. Though you don't necessarily need that, though. Like, let's say I only had these two tiles of rails here. The residential zone would be touching the one tile to start at, then it would go to another tile for a destination zone, in this case, commercial zones. So they can start developing. If you don't have anything next to residential zones, well, any zone really, they won't develop very much. Okay, then let's get connected to all of those industrial zones. So the method that I'm using for this build is the column method, where we have two columns of zones connected all by rails there. There's also the donut build, which, what is that? Well, yeah, you have like a donut of 8 zones, and then you'll have something in the middle there. But I do want to show a build with that, but I'm not going to use that right now. Next, we need to provide power to all of our zones, so let's connect our power plant to the zones with the power lines there. By the way police departments provide, well, police coverage to your city, if you don't have a means of transit connected to it, then it will provide half of their full police coverage. And if you don't have power connected to them, it's half of that. So they're down to like 25% of what they otherwise could provide there. Oh yeah, something I think I've been doing, but kind of glossed over it. If you press the select button, you can go between the unit menu here and the field, so you don't have to wait for your cursor to get everywhere. Same thing with the start button, but for the menu bar up top there. So that can help you put things together a little faster there. Let's get power going all around here. You basically just want to connect any zone that has power to another zone that has power. And if they're touching each other, right next to each other, then that power gets shared between them. That's not exactly how power distribution works, but it will suffice for figuring that out. And finally, I want to add parks around here. Parks don't produce any population. They purely increase land value. So I want to put some of them around these commercial zones over here because we've got the industrial zones there. And while commercial zone growth isn't determined by, it's not affected by pollution, pollution does reduce land value, and these parks will counter that. There's a lot more to how land value works here, or like police coverage. I have everything placed here very precisely. I'm not going to go into every little detail about how that works right now. I just want to teach you the basics. When I go to more advanced builds, then I'll go into that. But you don't need to know how everything works to put everything down here. So let's see, I think I'm just going to start with that for now. I don't want to build more than this. Oh, and by the way, when I was talking about like zone demand, that's referring to the RCI meter over here. If the bars are above the letters, that means those zones are in high demand, whereas if they're below, it means they have low demand and they might actually degrade or regress to an earlier state of development there. Let's go into the information menu, take a look at taxes. To start a city, I'd like to, well, for this city at least, I'd like to reduce my tax rate to 5%. So that way, that will increase demand for all zones. The lower the taxes, the more demand you'll get. Although I will want to increase taxes eventually to generate more revenue to continue building the city since I'm not using the money cheat. Okay, so we got all that ready to go. Oh yeah, I'm also going to be using save states while I'm playing in this LP, because if I mess up building something, I'm like one tile off. I don't want to have to demolish it and then waste my money on that. And I don't want to have to re-record every single time I make a little mistake like that. So let's get started. I want to start with the slowest game speed that isn't like a full stop, because the way the game updates things like power distribution is it checks it every week if you are on the slowest speed, every 2 weeks for the medium speed, and every 4 weeks for the fastest speed. But the end result after those 4 weeks is going to be the same no matter what. So it's not really a big deal. Not to mention I can fast forward as my city is developing here. So now we get to play the waiting game. Now on the menu bar here, we also have the magnifying glass. That'll show you what level and class each zone is. So like with the industrial zones there, we got a level 2 and a level 1 industrial zone. So our total industrial levels is 3. the class of each zone doesn't especially matter. For every one level, you get 160 people for any zone. And so, like, if you have a level 1 low zone, or you have a level 1 upper zone, doesn't matter. They both provide 160 people. The only way that the zone class matters is if they are high class. We got low, mid, upper, and high. And high is the one that I want to get for as many zones as I can, especially commercial zones. Industrial zones, it doesn't matter at all. They'll either be low or high, and it's random, whatever they end up being. Now, with residential zones, they develop a little differently. For each one of these little buildings here, that counts as 20 people, and if you get all 8 surrounding the letter R there, that's, well, 160, so that's 1 level for a residential zone. You could also demolish some of these little buildings and then build another zone on top of that. That's what we call zone stacking, but I think that's a bit of a cheap method to use, so I am not going to be doing that, but you could if you wanted. Let's see, we're almost up to our first milestone. 2,000 people. We become a town, and that will unlock something. Whenever you go to a new tier or rank or whatever you want to call it, some conditions get met to provide various things for you. Like the mayor's house, our first present or gift of the game. The way most gifts work is you place them in your city and they massively increase land value surrounding them. There's more precision to exactly how that works, and I'll go into that in a later build. But basically what I want to do is put it next to the commercial zones so that they can develop into a high class. Now, even though that one is an upper class zone, whenever it gains a level, it'll recheck the land value in the area, and then it could upgrade to a high class zone if I have enough land value there. Yeah, there's the RCI meter that I was telling you guys about. So yeah, he'll pop in every now and then, unannounced. Okay, so you see how that one residential zone is, it looks like it's level 2. That's actually level 3 for a residential zone. So like the first one is with the 8 buildings surrounding it, then R1 is actually level 2, R2 is level 3, and so on. Let's see, residential and commercial zones can develop up to level 6, and industrial zones can only go up to level 4. But you need industrial zones. Yeah, they produce pollution, but it's way over here, so that's not a problem. Okay, now let's fast forward the development of the city there. Yeah, you see how that commercial zone changed into a high class zone. I'm not as concerned about high class for residential zones, but if I can do it, so much the better. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of the year where we've got that budget that I was showing you guys with a tax rate. And that's when we'll process the budget, collect taxes, and so on. Or else. Okay, so for now, I'm going to keep the tax rate at 5% because of how there's a lot of variance to how your city can development, and lowering taxes kind of reduces that a bit. So let's see, for transportation funds or transit fund, it well, that's your maintenance for your roads and rails there. You always want that at 100% or they'll self-destruct. Well, basically, they'll degrade randomly. And then the police fund, I always want to keep at 100%. We don't need a fire department yet, but eventually they'll require us to. But I'll wait for that when we get there. Yeah, there's the start and select thing that I was telling you guys about. With the menu bar up top there. Let's see, for now, I'm not going to build any more zones yet. You'll see why in a bit. But I would like to, well, let's take a look at some things. Take a look at the voice menu that tells you what problems your city is having in the lower left. And, well, how severe the problems are. Housing costs is always going to be a problem in practice because of how small the city is. I mean, there's nowhere else to go. So don't worry about that. Let's see, with pollution, that's based on my industrial zones right now. But since it's way over there, it's not really a problem. It won't hinder my zone development since I've spread things out appropriately. Let's see, taxes are basically inevitable here. People are going to complain about that no matter what they are. Well, unless it's like 0. Now, for crime, let's see how things are going here. Okay, so with the land value, you see we got the gift there, and yeah, it's really high land value. I'm surprised it's that high up here, but I guess that's because of the forest on the little island there, and down here by my residential zones. Unintended, but I'll take it. Okay, so, oh yeah, crime. Let's take a look at where crime is happening around here. So, naturally, it's going to be happening at the industrial zones with the pollution reducing the land value. But they don't care about that, so I'm not going to bother with that for now. But eventually, I will build some more police departments to help out over there. We've also got some over here, so I'm going to put another police department over here. I mean, it's a little far, so it won't provide as much help. But I'm going to be developing my city in that direction anyway, eventually. So we'll just start with that. So we'll get another one ready to help out there and continue on. So I don't want to build all of my police departments at once because I don't have enough people to commit crimes. So it's really not worth it to build a ton of them at the start there. Okay, so now I'm basically waiting on my residential zones to continue developing. I basically want to get up to my total residential levels up to 32. And you'll see why when we get to that point as we become a city that'll unlock another gift eventually. Let's wait a little more for the residential zones to develop as I'm fast forwarding. Let's see, we might have enough by now already. Let's see, okay, so we got 3, 10, 16, 23. Okay, I need a little more out of that. So that's 23 based on the numbers there, but remember there's the base level there with the 8 buildings. So that's another level there for the 8. So that's actually 31 residential levels. But I just count the numbers that are displayed, and then I just add the rest there. So, okay, we got 4, 11, 18, 25. Okay, plus the 8, so that's 33 residential levels. Okay, you know what? Let me make a save state here just to show you how this can work. Now, whenever you, well, for every 32 residential levels that you have, any subsequent or undeveloped residential zones, can potentially become a school or hospital. It has a 25% chance to do that per 32 residential levels that you've got. Now, you can possibly get more than one from 32 residential levels if they both trigger at once, but eventually the game will recheck that and be like, hey, wait a minute, you're not supposed to have 2 hospitals yet, so they'll degrade or regress one of them to an undeveloped residential zone and try again. Alright, so let's get some more zones going around here. So basically, the reason why I built so many more industrial zones at the start was to boost the demand of the residential and commercial zones there. Okay, now keep an eye on the residential zones. And if we're lucky enough... Yeah, there we go! We got a hospital! So now I'm going to build another residential zone to take its place there. And they've already got power, so we're all good to go there. Okay, we're doing pretty good there on the residential zones, so we'll just leave that alone. Would have been nice if I could have gotten a school to develop too, but oh well. By the way, hospitals and schools, they don't provide like healthcare or education, respectively. Their only purpose, at least in this game, is as a prerequisite for unlocking certain gifts. Hey, there we go. You see in the lower right there, we had 2 R4 high zones. And when you have 2 of them right next to each other like that, if you have enough land value, they can combine to form a top zone that counts as 2 level 6 residential zones. So that's pretty nice. And you get 160 people, well, per zone, so 320 more out of that. So that's what I'm trying to do with my commercial zones. I put the gift there so they can get 2 C5 commercial zones, or high commercial zones. So that way they'll fuse together, and that's as far as they will develop. Yeah, we get a message periodically from Dr. Wright about certain problems, but they're not a problem as long as it's way over there. We'll be fine. But alright, let's wrap things up for this year then. I don't think I want to do any more building. Alright, oh, you know, I should probably put some parks around here to help the land value of these commercial zones. They're a little bit farther from the gift, so it's not going to be helping them nearly as much. So a little park can help out with that. Now, even though you see the RCI meter up there, where it looks like everything's doing really well, because I have the taxes low, I still want to keep the tax rate at 5% for now. But eventually I will want to raise taxes and get more money out of this, but for now, this will do. And, well, let's see what we got going on now. Okay, so yeah, we're in January now. And, okay, well, we've still got some crime going on here, so I'm going to have to build some police departments. But even so, a lot of that crime is only happening by the industrial zones, so that will contribute to the complaint in the voice menu there, but it doesn't actually do anything, at least this crime, so I'm not worried about it. But can we build our city up to 30,000 people in time? Find out next time on Let's Play SimCity! This is H.G. Bailey, signing off. Have a good day!